Hello. So today is the day, the big scene, the big one. So we have finally come to Act 3, Scene 1, and we've finally come to the tip of that narrative arc that we've been talking about, and the tip into the real tragedy. There is an insane amount to talk about in this scene, and there will definitely be things that I won't be able to get to. So again, as usual, make sure you've read it. Make sure you really understand what's going on at each point. Read synopses, read all that kind of stuff, because I'm not going to be able to go into as much detail as I want to for the parts I want to go into detail for everything. Now, obviously, in terms of the importance of the scene, it's right up there. It's one of the most important scenes, arguably the most important. Now, of course, it's a key scene, so of course we've done a bit of acting for you. And it might sometimes look a little bit like this.
I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the capitals are abroad, and if we meet, we shall not scape abroad. For now these hot days is the mad blood stirring.
Thou art like one of those fellows that when he enters the confines of a tavern, claps his sword upon the table and says, God send me no need of thee, and by the operation of the second cup, draws him to the draw. Well, indeed, there is no need.
Am I like such a fellow?
Come, thou art as hot a jack in thy mood as any in Italy, and as soon as moved to be moody, and as soon moody to be moved.
And what too?
Nay, and there were two such. We should have none shortly, for one would kill the other. Thou? Why, thou wilt quarrel with a man that hath hair more or a hair less in his head than thou hast. Thou wilt quarrel with a man for cracking nuts, having no other reason but because thou hast hazel eyes. What eye but such an eye would spy out such a quarrel? Thy head is as full of quarrels as an egg is full of meat. And yet thy head hath been beaten as idle as an egg for quarrelling. Thou hast quarrelled with a man for coughing in the street, because he hath wakened thy dog that hath lain asleep in the sun. Didst thou not fall out with a tailor for wearing his new doublets before Easter? With another for trying his new shoes with old riband? And yet thou wilt choose to me from quarrelling?
And I was so apt to quarrel as thou art. Any man should buy the fee sample of my life for an hour and a quarter.
The fee simple, oh simple!
By my head, here come the Capulets.
By my heel I care not.
Follow me close, for I will speak to them. Gentlemen, good Dan, a word with one of you.
Ah, but one word with one of us? Couple it with something, making a word under blow.
You shall find me apt enough to that, sir, and you will give me occasion.
Could you not take some occasion without giving?
Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo.
Consort? What dost thou make us minstrels? And thou make minstrels of us. Look to hear nothing but discords. Here's my fiddlestick. Here's that which will make you dance. Sound, consort!
We talk here in the public haunt of men. Either withdraw into some private place and reason coldly of your grievances, or else depart. Here all eyes gaze on us.
Men's eyes were made to look, and let them gaze. I will not budge for no man's pleasure, I.
Well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man.
But I'll be hanged, sir, if he wear your livery. Many go before to field. He'll be your follower, your worship, in any sense that may call him man.
Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain.
Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. Villain, I am not. Therefore, farewell. I see thou knowest me not.
Boy, this shall not excuse the injuries thou hast done me. Therefore, turn and draw.
I do protest I never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise. Till thou shalt know the reason of my love, and so, good Capulets, which name I tender as dearly as mine own, be satisfied.
Oh, come! Dishonourable, vile submission! Alistair Carter carrying us away. Tybalt, you rat catcher. Will you walk?
What wouldst thou have with me?
Good king of cats. Nothing but one of your 9 lives that I mean to take bold withal. And as you shall use me hereafter, dry beat the rest of the 8. Will you pluck your sword out of this pilcher by the ears? Make haste, lest mine be about your ears ere it be out.
I am for you!
Gentle Mercutio, put thy rapier up.
Come, sir, your passado.
Draw Benvolio, beat down their weapons. Gentlemen, for shame, forbear this outrage. Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince hath expressly forbid this bandying in Verona streets. Hold Tybalt, good Mercutio.
I am hurt. A plague on both your houses. I am sped. Is he God that hath nothing?
What art thou hurt?
Aye, a scratch. Marry, 'tis enough. Where is my page? Go, villain, fetch a surgeon.
Courage, man, the hurt cannot be much.
No, 'tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough. 'Twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you will find me a grave man. Oh, I am peppered. My warrant for this world. A plague on both your houses. Sounds, a dog, a rat, a mouse, a cat to scratch a man to death. A braggart, a rogue, a villain that fights by the book of arithmetic. Why the devil came you between us? I was hurt under your arm.
I thought all was for the best.
Help me into some house, Benvolio, or I shall faint. A plague on both your houses. They have made worms meat of me. I have it, and soundly too. Your houses.
This gentleman, the prince's near ally, my very friend, hath got this mortal hurt in my behalf. My reputation stained with Tybalt's slander. Tybalt, just an hour hath been my cousin. O sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. That gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here did scorn the earth.
This day's black fate on most days doth depend. This but being the woes others must end.
Here comes the furious Tybalt back again.
He go in triumph, and Mercutio slain, away to heaven, respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now. Now, Tybalt, take the villain back again, that late thou gavest me. For Mercutio's soul is but away above our heads, staying for thine but to keep him company. Either thou or I, or both, must go with him.
Thou wretched boy, thou didst consort him here. Shalt with him hence.
This shall determine that.
Romeo, away, begone! The citizens are all, and Tybalt slain. Stand not the prince will doom thee death. If thou art taken, hence be gone. Away!
Oh, I am a fortune's fool.
Why dost thou stay?
So we start off, and Benvolio and Mercutio are around, and Benvolio, remember, is a symbol of peace. Okay? And straight away, we remember that he said, the first thing he says in the play is, "Part fools, put up thy swords, you know not what you do." Yeah, the first thing he says is peaceful, whereas that juxtaposes what Tybalt said, which is basically, "You're going to die, Benvolio." So we're seeing quite clear kind of symbols between the two, and Benvolio does the same here. The day is hot, and the capels are abroad. For thou these hot days is the mad blood stirring. So, Mercutio, it's a hot day. There's a lot of tension at the moment, and we need to leave because I can feel, the Capulets are on their way. We need to go. And Mercutio responds in quite a kind of a funny way, but also, he's attacking Benvolio here. He says, "You are like one of those fellows that when he enters a conveyance of a tavern, claps me on his sword and says, 'God send me no need of thee.'" So the point of this part is that Mercutio is kind of interestingly pointing out that, Benvolio, you claim to be such a man of peace. You claim to be a kind of person who puts his sword on the table when you have a drink and say, "I have no need of you. I don't need you at all." And then by the second drink is kicking off with this kind of, with his blade out and he's attacking people and whatever. So Mercutio's, attacking Benvolio's character there, a bit of comic relief, but also maybe Benvolio's not as kind of as perfect as he thinks he is. And, they have a kind of a backward and forward all about that. So Mercutio again kind of, attacks him for saying that he will attack him for any reason, basically. That, Benvolio, you will attack a man, you will quarrel with a man, you will argue with a man, just for having one fewer or one more hair than you've got on your head than he does. Something really trivial. Obviously, he's being hyperbolic there, but Mercutio is kind of, playing around and being classic Mercutio, really. Then we see, thy head is as full of quarrels as an egg is full of meat. Now, meat, and again, if you do A-level language, you'll look into this, but the word meat has narrowed over time. Now it just means something that is from an animal. So, the flesh of an animal is meat. Whereas in Elizabethan times, meat meant any food, basically. So any food was called meat. So he's saying, your head is so full of arguments, and it's so full of arguments as if, an egg is full of food, which obviously an egg is full of food because people eat egg. So there's this whole backward and forward between Benvolio and Mercutio, and then enter Tybalt. Okay? So Tybalt comes in with his Capulet pals. Benvolio says, here come the Capulets. And Mercutio plays on the by my head that he says, by my heel, I care not. And kind of turns his back on them. Now we then see Mercutio still kind of putting his foot on it a little bit. He says, you will have seen this in the little scene that, he jokes about, make it a word and a blow. There's kind of these sexual kind of innuendos that are being used in euphemisms. Could you not take some occasion without giving? Again, there's kind of this. He's joking about with Tybalt because Mercutio, remember, is the cousin of the prince. He's almost untouchable for that reason. Neither of the two families will ever touch him. Now, then Tybalt knows he wants to rile Mercutio. He wants to annoy him. So he says, Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo. Okay? Now, a few interpretations here. But one, and I think the one that most people go with, is that he's calling Mercutio gay here. He's saying you consort with Romeo. He's implying that Romeo and Mercutio are in a homosexual relationship, basically. And as we probably all know, that was not okay at the time. That was seen as the worst thing you could often call a person. Okay? So Mercutio does not like that. And he kind of reacts quite negatively. He says, here's my fiddlestick, here shall that make you dance. So he says, all right, do you know what? You want to try and make that claim? I'll fight you. Let's do it right here, right now. And he's still using that kind of comedic language, my fiddlestick that shall make you dance. Yeah, he's still very kind of abstract and metaphorical with his ideas. He was referring to his sword as a fiddlestick. Now again, Benvolio's kind of peaceful side comes out. We're in the public. Please, let's at least just go to some private place so that people can't see us. Okay? And he says, here, all eyes gaze on us. Everyone's watching. Okay? And Mercutio says, men's eyes were made to look. Let them gaze. I will not budge for no man's pleasure. But then, Mercutio's been riled up and he's ready to go. And then enter Romeo. So Tybalt is done kind of playing around with Mercutio. He's done with toying with Mercutio. Because Romeo's the reason he's here. If you remember, he realised that Romeo was at the party. And he swore that he would do something about it. And we also learned in Act 2 that he sent a letter to the Montague house challenging Romeo to a duel, a fight. So Tybalt says something that, changes kind of what we see as his character, that he's so impulsive usually, he's so reactive, and yet he says, peace be with you, sir, here comes my man. Yeah, we're seeing a bit of irony there, that he's using peace to calm Mercutio. Well, normally we'd probably fight, but today, peace be with you. I'm giving you peace, even though you are Romeo's friend, and I probably want you dead. You can have peace, because what I really hate right now is that man over there, Romeo. Mercutio, but I'll be hanged, sir, if you wear your livery. So, but, believe me, he will not defend you. He will not wear your colours almost, yeah, your livery, your kind of uniform. Then, Tybalt says this, Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain. Okay? Really key quote there. Now, in terms of context, the idea that you would dishonor someone by saying they are a villain was a real insult. Okay? And he says it in such a plain manner. Thou art a villain. There's also the idea that he says a villain. He doesn't say you are the one and only, but he says you are definitely part of the problem. Now, we know that Romeo is actually kind of kept out of the war mostly, so quite a harsh thing for Tybalt to say, that you are a villain, you are pure evil, and I'm kind of onto you, is what Tybalt's thinking. So most people in the situation will obviously react to that, and Romeo does not. So Romeo kind of hints, because remember, between this and the previous scene at the end of Act 2, Romeo and Juliet are now married, okay? They've got married off stage. It's now husband and wife. They are married, okay? And he says, Tybalt, the reason I have to love thee doth much excuse the appertaining rage to such a greeting. Okay? He says, Tybalt, the reason I love you so much is the reason that I'm going to let that kind of, that horrible thing you just said slide. I'm going to let it go. Okay? You don't know me right now, but I'm going to let that go because I love you so much. Tybalt will not be happy about that. Again, symbol of anger, aggression, and power. All right? Romeo's trying to be genuine. He's trying to say, look, I don't want to fight you because you are the cousin of my wife, of my love. Okay? And yet, Tybalt obviously doesn't know that. Now, Tybalt obviously continues, turn and draw. Therefore, turn and draw. Romeo says, I do protest, I never injured thee, but I love thee better than thou canst devise. I love you more than words can say, because we're family now. But obviously he's not saying we're family. He's just saying, I love you more than you can even imagine. Yeah? Obviously he's trying to keep it a secret for now. Till thou shalt know the reason of my love, and so good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as mine own, be satisfied. Yeah? Think about the use of that lexical verb. I tender as dearly as my own. Yeah? If you remember, we talked about with the balcony scene, Act 2, Scene 2, how much of a big deal it was that both Romeo and Juliet claimed they would get rid of their names. They would lose their kind of identity almost, just to be with each other. And he's saying that in this time, I tender as dearly as my own, your name as well as mine. Bear in mind, these are two families at war. Huge, huge statement. And Mercutio has been standing by the entire time watching this, disgusted. He stood up for Romeo. I stood up for you, and yet you are pandering to this man who is threatening your life, is saying you're a villain. How could you do this? Mercutio is feeling so betrayed. Absolutely, no question. And that kind of explains his next move. He says, O calm, dishonourable, vile submission. A really, really good quote, that one. So that asyndetic list of insults that he's throwing at Romeo. Calm, dishonourable, vile submission. There is nothing worse during this time as a young man, in terms of context, than to be called dishonourable and submissive. That you let people walk all over you. That you don't take control. That you don't have power. He is raging at Romeo. Mercutio draws. He takes out his weapon. Okay? He takes out his sword. And he says, Tybalt, you rat catcher, will you walk? As in, right, if he won't take you on, I'm going to take you on. Tybalt again kind of plays with him. Well, what would you have with me? What are you even trying to achieve here? And he says, good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives. Because of Mercutio's kind of insults, calling him the king of cats, and, he kind of insults Tybalt in several different ways. Again, this is one of the parts that I could go into more detail with, but I want to move on to different stuff. But Tybalt says, I am for you. As in, fine, let's go, let's fight. He draws, gentle Mercutio, put thy rapier up. And he says, come, sir, your passago. Okay? They fight. Now, obviously, again, as we've said before, Shakespeare didn't really use many stage directions. And when he did, it was important. He says they fight. Now, that is not just going to be, you saw us in kind of the little in the hall there, you know, pretending to fight. We're not really kind of going for it, but you know, if you ever see this live, they really do go for it. They properly fight. And the point is that Tybalt is a warrior. He is a brilliant swordsman. And this would not be some kind of easy battle. Yeah? This is a battle of passion. Remember, so many people in this play are so impulsive. So a sword fight, a duel, would be exactly that. It would be a real duel. Yeah? Like a full-on warfare fight. Now, Romeo is a bit of a coward here. He asks Benvolio to beat down their weapons. Now, we obviously know that Benvolio is a symbol of peace, and Romeo is a symbol of impulsivity. And before Benvolio can even get involved, Romeo draws his sword now. Okay? And he says, "Forbear this outrage. The prince expressly hath forbid this bandying in Verona streets." Suddenly, Romeo is thinking about something other than himself, which is a bit of a shock to us, really, because usually he doesn't think about that kind of stuff. Okay? And yet, it's on his mind now. Okay? But maybe we could argue he's using that as an excuse to save Tybalt because of the love that he has for him as a family member now. Possibly. Then we get here, look, Romeo attempts to beat down their rapiers and Tybalt stabs Mercutio. Now, in most versions, it does say Tybalt stabs Mercutio under Romeo's arm. If I show you this version here, look, that we usually use in school. Tybalt, under Romeo's arm, thrusts Mercutio in and flies. So he stabs him under Romeo's arm. Tybalt runs off. Okay? Mercutio says, "I am hurt." Straight up, "I am hurt." Think about how much he is a jokey man usually, but the first thing he says is, "I am hurt." This is serious. "A plague are both your houses." He is kind of abstractly, metaphorically putting a curse on them. He's cursing their houses. But also both houses. He does not think it's Tybalt's fault. He does not think it's Romeo's fault. You are both just as to blame. And neither of you is more to blame than the other. A plague on both your houses. Again, honor and that kind of idea of, you know, masculinity and that kind of stuff is huge. So the fact that he's metaphorically shaming them, a plague on both your houses, big deal. Now, when Benvolio says, "What, art thou hurt?" he replies, "Aye, a scratch, a scratch." Now think about what that symbolizes. Now he's gone back to his kind of jokey self. "Oh, it's just a scratch, it's fine." And then he realizes, "Marry, 'tis enough." He says, "Yes, it may be a scratch, but this is enough." Romeo tries to say that it can't, you know, pull through. You can do it. The hurt cannot be much. Now then, we get a whole load of ideas here with Mercutio. "'Tis not so deep as a well, nor so wide as a church door, but 'tis enough." Okay? So we've got those comparative similes there. Yeah? That, yes, do you know what? This scratch, if you look at it, it's not as deep as a well, and it's not as wide as a church door, but it's enough. Enough to kill me, basically, is what he's saying. He says, this really famous quote, "Ask for me tomorrow and you shall find me a grave man." Okay? So he's playing on words there. He's still clinging to the idea of the comedy and being the light-hearted character. Yeah? Despite his imminent death, basically. He repeats it, "A plague on both your houses." Okay? And then at the end of that, look, he directly blames Romeo. "Why the devil came you between us? I was hurt under your arm." Okay? So even if the stage directions aren't there in this version, this translation, the language is. Yeah, Shakespeare's letting us know with the language, it is, you know, Romeo's fault is a big part of it. Maybe it's not completely Romeo's fault, but he plays a big part in the fact that Mercutio's just been stabbed. Now look at this. Romeo, "I thought all for the best." I don't know if he did. For who? I think there's a missing prepositional phrase there almost. "I thought all for the best for me" is probably what he really meant. Because he's impulsive. He doesn't think about anyone else. He thought, I thought everything was fine. And I thought it was going to be okay because obviously he doesn't say this, but, you know, I've just married into the other family and the friars told me that this is going to cause peace. I thought everything was going to be fine. We're seeing the naivety, the ignorance coming back for Romeo, okay? So he's developing as a character by almost reverting back to his old ways. "I thought all for the best," okay? Now again, "A plague of both your houses," he repeats it so many times, yeah, throughout. There's a structural kind of pattern there that Shakespeare keeps reminding us that Mercutio is annoyed at both the Capulets and the Montagues. So Benvolio takes him out, and that is the last thing we hear from Mercutio. Your houses. So a plague on both your houses, and then the last thing he shouts is your houses, as in, I'm cursing you. The last thing he ever says. Okay? So Romeo, while Mercutio has been dealt with, says, my very friend hath got this mortal hurt in my behalf. He's starting to realise Mercutio is going to die. This is it. It's my fault. Think about the emotions rushing through his mind right now. Yeah? He says, my reputation has stained with Tybalt's slander. Now he's blaming Tybalt. Interesting. So he's just gone from my behalf, and now he's gone to Tybalt. Tybalt, that an hour hath been my cousin. How could he betray me like this? He's been my cousin for an hour. And already he's betrayed me. Obviously, he's not thinking. He's not realising what he's saying. In this little speech here, he's gone from blaming himself to blaming someone else so quickly. Then he does what surprises a lot of people. He blames Juliet. Oh, sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate. Okay? And obviously, contextually, a man would not want to be seen as that. They were meant to be masculine and, which is apparently what masculine people do, according to my brain right there. Even the person that he loves most in the world, that you've made me feminine. You've made me effeminate. Benvolio comes back in and announces Mercutio is dead. Now think about where we've heard this before. Oh, Romeo, Romeo. Balcony scene. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And we're kind of seeing a similar message, because Juliet was asking, Romeo, Romeo, why are you Romeo? Why do you have to be Romeo? Why do you have to be this person? In terms of why do you have to be a Montague? When Benvolio uses it, it's almost a similar idea. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. If we think about the way Oh, Romeo, Romeo was used before, it was used in a way that they're questioning why they had to be the way they are. I personally think Benvolio is doing the exact same thing. Shakespeare's definitely chosen to do that on purpose. I can't say definite because I don't know him. He's not here tonight. But, I think it's very, very likely that Shakespeare's done that on purpose. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. There's an element of blame coming from Shakespeare and from Benvolio there. Then we get a much darker semantic feel. The day's black fate. The woes others must end. Yeah? Tybalt comes back in. Here comes the furious Tybalt back again. So Tybalt's run off and he's realised, no, I need to finish this business. I came here to kill Romeo. I'm going to do it. Romeo, every time I've seen Romeo and Juliet, Romeo is really emotional at this point. Whether he's screaming, whether he's crying, whether he's red in the face, whether he's kind of, pulsing veins. He's always very emotional at this point. In every interpretation I've ever seen. And there might be some out there that aren't, but this is a very emotional time for him. One of his best friends has just been killed, and the man who killed him has just come back. He's going to be feeling it. And we know he's impulsive. We can probably guess what Romeo's going to do. He says, either thou or I or both must go with him. Go with him, AO3 context, to the afterlife. Either you or me or both of us are going to go with him. Someone's going to die here, and it might be you, it might be me, or it might be both of us. But someone's about to die. Romeo is so emotional right now. Now again, we come down, and it says, they throw a few words at each other. And it says, they fight, Tybalt falls. Now again, doesn't sound very exciting. It doesn't say, after a long, raging battle. It doesn't really do that. Because again, Shakespeare doesn't do that. He just chooses not to. But again, these are two brilliant fighters. Yeah, Romeo is a brilliant fighter, as well as Tybalt being known for his amazing fighting. So this would be a real battle. Yeah? But eventually, Tybalt falls. Tybalt is killed by Romeo. Now, Benvolio, poor guy, but again, symbol of peace. He's trying to calm it. Romeo, you need to get out of here right now. The citizens are up, everyone's realising what's going on, and Tybalt is dead. He's slain. Alright? Think about that word choice. Tybalt slain. It's not just dead. Slain. So think about that. If you slay something, it's a lot of power, a lot of emotion behind that. It's passionate. So we can probably infer that, again, this was a passionate fight. That he's been slain by you. He hasn't just been killed. He's been destroyed. So Romeo says a really key quote here. I am fortune's fool. Now we know that because we know he's going to die. We know he's going to kill himself in the end. Now, obviously, we know his fortune's full because he is an absolute he's a victim of fate, basically, isn't he? And he can't help it. You know, Shakespeare personifies him here. Look as well. Fortune's full. Personifies it by making it a proper noun. It makes fortune this kind of living, breathing thing that is almost toying with Romeo, and that's how Romeo feels, that fate has toyed with him. And now, the cousin of his new wife that he loves more than anything is dead, and he has had to kill him. I say had to, but he's chosen to kill him. And one of his best friends is dead. Fate is screwing up Romeo's life right now. Everyone comes in, basically. The whole city have turned out for this, because it's a big deal. Enter Prince, old Montague, Capulet, their wives, and all. So basically the entire of Verona have kind of heard about this and rushed to the scene. Prince, where are the vile beginners of this fray? Yeah? If you remember in Act 1, Scene 1, Romeo describes kind of the scuffle that happened as well as a fray. And we're seeing again, there's a repetition there, but it's getting worse every time it happens. The vile beginners, that adjective there, how he's describing them. Benvolio explains, and Lady Capulet comes in, screeching, yeah? My brother's child, O prince, O cousin, husband, O the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman. Then she turns to the prince. Prince, as thou art true, for blood of ours shed blood of Montague. So you promised, you said last time, whoever disturbs the streets again, they will be killed. Are you true to your word or not? Okay? And then the prince turns to Benvolio, who's clearly, someone who's respected. So he asks him, who began this? Okay? Now, Benvolio then goes on a whole little thing that goes on and explains how all of it happens. Okay? Obviously, you need to read that and look at that and annotate that, but I'm not going to go through that because it's just a recap of what we've just seen. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live. That modal verb there, must. Yeah? The negated modal verb, must not live. She's saying, you've promised he cannot live. He cannot go on. You said he would die, therefore he must die. The prince sees a bit of reason, arguably. Again, we've spoken about how he's possibly not the most powerful or the most effective leader. Maybe he's a weak leader. But, at this point, we are maybe agreeing with him that Romeo maybe shouldn't be killed because Tybalt did kill Mercutio. And that's what he says. Romeo slew him, he slew Mercutio. And Lord Montague comes in begging for his life. His fault concludes but what the law should end, the life of Tybalt, that you said that whoever caused something would be killed, and that's exactly what happened. So, no, Romeo shouldn't be killed because he's just done what the law said. Yeah, there's almost a legal argument going on between the two families at this point. They're trying to use the prince's words to kind of benefit themselves and interpret it in their own way. Prince, and for that offence, immediately we do exile him hence. So Romeo is banished, okay? And he says that he's going to put so strong a fine on both the families that they will all repent the loss of mine. So my cousin has been killed. The prince's cousin Mercutio has just been killed as well. The prince is grieving, okay? Now, Prince Ascalus also says that he will be deaf to pleading and excuses. Will he, though? Because he's just kind of listened to pleading and excuses. So, again, I say we. I personally am questioning, is he that good a leader? Is he as strong as he thinks he is? And he finishes off, let Romeo hence in haste, else, when he is found, that hour is his last. So let him run off. Because if he's found in this city, that hour will be his last. He will be killed within the hour. So, believe me, when I said that Act 3, Scene 1, it all hits the fan. It all hits the fan, and it's only going to get worse for Romeo and Juliet. Believe me, you think it can't get worse, it really, really can. So that is it for this scene. Make sure you get loads and loads of notes down for this one. It's a really, really key one. Not just the bits that I've done as well, but also other bits as well that you find kind of interesting or worthwhile mentioning. All right? Any questions, let me know. And in the meantime, stay safe. Bye.
Action!
What a hyper... Sorry.
Come there.
By my ear, there comes a Montague.
Have made me Effeminate. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was so good as well.
If he wear your livery. Beat down their weapons, gentlemen, for shame, forbear this outrage. I've missed a line, sorry.
Come, sir, your passado.
Draw Benvolio. Beat down their weapons, gentlemen, for shame, forbear this outrage.
This is like Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, then, isn't it?
The prince have expressive. I can't.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it is.
I thought we said no outtakes.